Welcome to Create, Build, Manage, the Entrepreneur's Toolbox.
Welcome to Create, Build, Manage on BizTV. I'm Kelli Phillips. This season of Create, Build, Manage is brought to you by Thought Leader. Today we have two motivational guests for you. Nicole Rivers is an educator and children's book author who believes it's important for children to take pride in their physical features and ancestry. Eileen Filliben Edmunds is an attorney and a catalyst for change dedicated to improving experiences for all people who suffer with chronic pain. Stick around, we'll be right back with more Create, Build, Manage only on BizTV. She's an award-winning educator turned author that addresses the sensitive topics of looks and self-acceptance. Please welcome Nicole Rivers to the show. Hi, Nicole. How are you today?
Hello, I am well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, can you give us a little bit about your background and what got you into the education business?
Well, education is a huge part of my life. I have been a teacher for almost 20 years. And the truth be told is I got into education because a great counselor looked at my strength in writing skills and leadership skills and said, I think you would be a great teacher. And so I think you should apply for college and apply for the scholarship. And that's what happened. That's all she wrote. And I found out that it is a great fit for someone like me.
So what was it about education that drew you in?
Well, what I understood is that education helps you provide lasting impact on others. And I came from some disadvantaged circumstances and disadvantaged communities. And I realized that through education, I was able to receive mentorship and opportunities and people that poured into me and believed in me in ways that I wouldn't have if I didn't have those teachers and those educators in my life. And so it was my opportunity to do that for other people.
And then what got you to become that author?
Well, when you work around teenagers, it's a lot of fun all the time. And the fun thing about teenagers is that they are very open. And they are very just vulnerable. And so when a student trusts you, they start to share with you those things that bother them, that concern them. And I would have these conversations and I would mentor and I would try to help students get over those different things in life outside of my classroom, outside of my lessons. And I realized that message that I'm giving to each student individually can be given to more children and more individuals if I was able to write about those things. And so that is what inspired me to be an author.
And what types of things would you talk about with those teens that now you're talking about in your books?
Well, a lot of those things have to do with mental health and wellness, esteem and self-acceptance and understanding their uniqueness and understanding that they have worth and value just the way they are, even if they don't look a specific way, even if their grades aren't perfect, even if life isn't perfect right now, that they are someone of worth and of value. And that's what led me to writing books about specific topics.
So can you share a brief summary of your book story and the main message it has?
Yes. So my children's book, Mommy Am I Ugly, is a story where a little girl is being picked on in class and she comes home to ask her mother, is what these students are saying about her true? And her mother takes her on a journey of pointing out, look at the animals, look at nature. Do you see how everything is different and how we enjoy all those differences? Well, sometimes when it comes to people, we are not as open and as accepting, but then she takes the daughter on a journey to say, hey, your features come from your dad, come from your grandmother, come from your people, and that you should be proud of those things and you should love who you are. And so that is the journey of that story. It takes beauty beyond skin deep or fitting the perfect image, but reminding people that what you look like has deeper connections to family and community, and it can help you build your personal esteem.
So why do you think we as people have a difficult time accepting differences in people, yet when it comes to animals, there isn't a difference?
A lot of people deal with esteem issues. And with dealing with those particular esteem issues, they have to fight against the temptation to compare themselves with other people and decide, oh, I'm better or I'm not enough. And that temptation is one that we battle with throughout our entire lives. And so when we look at a dog or a cat or a caterpillar or a butterfly, we don't fight those comparisons. But when we look at each other, those esteem issues really do pop up.
And that's something that you see in magazines, you see on the news, you see everywhere. So you're kind of bombarded by it. What's been the response from people that have read your book?
Well, the response has been, this is something that I didn't even know I needed to hear. A lot of people have taken that pain that they've dealt with when they were little children, and they just accepted it as a part of life, and they buried it without fight dealing with it. And I think that revisiting that place with new tools and new language gives them that opportunity to look at it from a different lens, and it helps them to face it, but it also helps them to heal and not just be agitated by what they see and by remembering something that was a painful memory as a child.
So do you think this will be an ongoing series? This is just a book, but now you're going to continue?
For sure. So it won't always focus on looks. I am an educator. And like I said, we do deal with a lot. They are important. It's the first thing that people, see and judge about it. But then we move on to things like different types of intellect. Sometimes we focus more on the A's and the B's and not those that have different natural gifts and talents with their hands or with their bodies or other parts of multiple intelligences. And so I do want to address that. And there are some other differences that come up when we're neurodivergent. Kids, as a teacher, kids go from a spectrum, autism and other learning disabilities and other ways they have to show up in the world. And I want people to learn how to make room for themselves and make room for others. So those issues that show up in my classroom and have shown up in my classroom over the years, I want to write books that address those issues and help people make room for others and heal from sometimes being, marginalized or pushed to the edges.
Why do you think books like these haven't been written in the past?
I think that there have been some books, and there are more and more books that are addressing this. But sometimes when we address them, we kind of still make a us and a them, those mean people over there, those nice people over here. And I just want us all to see in this type of book, the way I present it in the types of books that I write, that it's not about, making someone else look bad or look mean. It's about creating understanding and also creating a place of healing, safety, and unity. And so these topics are sensitive. They make people feel vulnerable, and they make people have to revisit touchy spaces. And a lot of times when we read, we want to just escape those things. We don't want to face them. And so writing books like these are important, but it's also important that we give an answer. We don't just point out the problem.
So what strategies do you believe are most effective for teaching kids to appreciate diversity and accept others?
Well, the first thing I think we have to do, and the thing that I've done in my classroom, is teach people that it's okay to show up as yourself, that it's okay to speak your truth and to talk about your ethnicity and to talk about your different experiences, and that there's room for you in this space. And when someone offers you space to be yourself, then you learn how to offer others space and room to be themselves. And you hold people accountable and you remind them, I extended this space to you so that you can be who you are. And we need to continue to extend that to other people.
So in your book, you address pride and even ancestry differences, correct?
Yes.
And
I do.
Why is that important?
Well, it's important because people look different from all over the world for different reasons. Some of it came from how people evolved over time based on the regions, in the parts of the world, the weather and the geography and all those things. And then other things come from stylistic choices and cultural choices and religious choices and historical choices. And those things are important. They tell a story of history, whether it's happy or it's not. They tell that story, and it's something that we all need to appreciate about ourselves, and we all need to appreciate about other human beings.
So if people want to read your book, find out more about you, where can they do that?
Well, they can go to Amazon.com, or they can go to Facebook and Nicole Rivers. That's my author's page. And they can go to Amazon.com and they can look up Mommy Am I Ugly by Nicole Rivers, and they can find my book and purchase it. And even if you don't have children, you can read it to your nieces, your nephews, your cousins, children that you know will benefit from it, or you can read it to your inner child and take that journey of healing and connecting to those people that are part of your history and part of your community.
Well, Nicole, I look forward to reading your book and can't wait to see what comes next from you. Nicole Rivers, thanks for joining us today. As a two-time breast cancer survivor, our next guest hopes to empower patients to be their own best advocates. Please welcome Eileen Filliben Edmunds to the studio. Eileen, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into advocacy.
Absolutely. So I have had somewhat of a roller coaster ride with my own health journey. As you mentioned, I had breast cancer twice, but I also had other issues like irritable bowel syndrome, terrible migraines, chronic back and leg pain, which resulted in some very serious depression and ultimately PTSD. And through these experiences, I got to see the very best that healthcare has to offer and the very worst and everything in between. And I figure, as you know, we're one of the wealthiest nations in the world, and we simply can and must do better by our patients, especially those who suffer from chronic pain, which is really a silent epidemic that's gripping our country. And so I'm trying to shed awareness about the chronic pain epidemic and also give tools to both patients and to providers so that they can partner together for more collaborative and holistic outcomes.
Can you go into some of those tools that you offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the patient side, a couple kind of how-tos in being your own best self-advocate. So first and foremost, your health is in your hands. You are really the architect.
You may want to repeat that.
Oh, yes. Your health is absolutely in your hands. Nobody's going to do it for you. Mm-hmm. And it is absolutely your most important priority. And as you may understand yourself as a working mom, our self-care often falls to the very bottom of the list.
We're taking care of everybody else.
That's exactly right. And sometimes it falls completely off the list, despite it being the most important thing you could possibly do, not just for yourself, but for your kiddos, else. Your partners. Exactly. Second, really strive to be a partner with your provider, your doctors, your nurses. It really should be a collaboration. So yes, they're the medical experts, and you're the expert of your own body. And your body is talking to you constantly. So it's really important that you listen and that you partner with a provider who's going to listen to you. And
so many times, though, these days, you've got doctors that, I've got 15 minutes and I've got to get to the next patient.
It's terrible.
So yes. At that point, if you have one of those doctors, do you change doctors?
Absolutely. I respect people who enter the medical industry, and arguably this is the most crushingly difficult time. So you've got the financial pressures of a fatally flawed insurance industry, which is putting way too much pressure. Just like you said, they're watching their clocks. I've got 10 minutes, I've got 15 minutes. So that's really tough. Then you have malpractice insurance premiums going through the roof. And then you have the influx of private equity into healthcare. And the focus is much more on the bottom line than it is on patient outcomes and patient experience. So it's a tough time to be a doctor. So I highly respect them. And to answer your question, if that person's not working out for you, guess what? They are a highly paid medical consultant. Back to rule number 1, you're in charge, right? It's your health. It's your priority. If you need to fire them, you need to fire them. And I think as women, we're often socialized to just listen to our doctors, kind of no matter what they say, but do your homework. Do the research, come prepared with a list of questions, and ultimately follow your intuition. If your body's speaking to you in a way and your provider's not listening, or postponing tests or whatever the case may be, stand your ground and stand up for yourself. And if you need to switch providers, well, then so be it.
So many times, I think we go into doctor's appointments and we don't have that list of questions.
Yes.
How important is that?
Mission critical, right? Because just like you said, time pressure. So you have to make the most of their time. So I highly recommend coming in with a list of questions. And if it's a highly sensitive appointment, so for example, fresh diagnosis of cancer, certainly a really big deal. Not only do I bring a question, I bring a note taker, so that I can be fully present with the doctor, asking the questions, listening intently, and that note taker is there so that I can focus and hear what I need to hear. And then having those notes afterwards is invaluable, right? Because you are drinking, as a patient, you're learning a foreign language, and oftentimes under the worst of circumstances. So you just got a diagnosis of cancer, and all of a sudden there's all this jargon coming at you that you don't understand. So really important to have those questions, and in a highly sensitive situation, bring a trusted note taker who can also act as your sounding board after the fact.
And that's what you are going to need, because if you get that cancer diagnosis, that's the only thing you hear.
That's exactly
Everything
right.
else goes out the window.
Yes, exactly right.
So at what point did you start your company?
It's a relatively recent adventure. This is the exciting news. So I've had just a really, really bumpy 15 years of health. So re-diagnosed with breast cancer. Then I had 10 major surgeries in 10 years, including a double mastectomy gone horribly wrong, failed reconstruction, 4 failed back surgeries, including a double fusion. So I've been a bit of a hot mess, to be honest. And over the past 2 years, I've been on a remarkable healing journey. And part of it really focused on my chronic pain, because of everything I've dealt with, that was the most demoralizing and debilitating. And a great example of that, so I've had a couple skin cancers very early, and relatively recently I had a biopsy done. And so I had a bandage on my hand. It was literally nothing. I mean, nothing, but people were like, "Are you okay? Is it okay?" And it was the outward expression of the bandage that was a signal, oh, something's wrong. Whereas I've been literally bedridden with chronic pain and with migraines, and that's utterly invisible to people who don't experience it or don't know somebody who's experienced it. And so that's part of my passion, to really bring it to the surface.
So your company, what does it do?
So 2 things. Right now, we're really focused on educating and inspiring. So 2 markets, the patient market. As I said, I have a special place in my heart for women patients, especially working mom patients, to make sure you're prioritizing your self-care and being a vocal and informed advocate. And then second, for providers. This is not an easy market for them at all. So helping them kind of reconnect with why they went into medicine in the first place. Because for so many, it's been a long, hard journey, first through school. Some of them now have a mountain of debt. Now they're on a stopwatch, meeting with patients for 10, 12, 15. We're at 18 minutes, gotta go. So a lot of them are burnt out. And so that's why you're seeing a lot of turnover among medical professionals.
Why was it so important for you to help the medical professionals in addition to the patients?
Great question. So for me, it's kind of the boulder in the middle of the pond. So I absolutely am passionate about helping patients. And if I can help providers reconnect with their why and give them some tools for really becoming that collaborative partner with their patients. So yes, you're the medical professional and the patient is their own expert. They know what their body's telling them. They're listening to their symptoms. So collaborate with them because the two of you together will be greater than the sum of the parts.
So how can folks get in touch with you if they want to find out more?
I'd love to check out our website at pxempower.com. PX is kind of the industry jargon for patient experience, and that's fundamentally what I'm all about. So pxempower.com or Eileen at pxempower.com. Would really love to hear from you.
So they can get in touch with you, whether medical professional or whether patient, it does not matter. You're there to help them both.
Absolutely, because those are really the two key forces within the medical industry right now. And they are the two key influences on the patient experience. And I don't think there's enough of a patient voice. So one of my goals with PX Power is to really create an authoritative platform for patient stories, both my own patient stories about what's worked well and where the wheels are utterly off the bus and we need to go back on ASAP, and also sharing other patient stories, because no matter who you talk to, everybody's got a story about something that went well or didn't go so well.
And if we share, we learn.
That's exactly right.
Eileen, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kelli. It's been a pleasure.
We really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
And we'll be right back. For joining me today for BizTV's Create, Build, Manage from Thought Leader. Do you have a message that you want to get out into the world? Thought Leader has helped many aspiring motivational speakers land TEDx talks, from their virtual talk practice club to speaker certifications and TEDx-style coaching. Thought Leader will help get your message out into the world where it belongs. For more information, visit thought-leader.com. Stay tuned to BizTV for more stories that educate, enlighten, and empower.